So Pie Month continues, and today we are making sour cream raspberry pie. Now, there are so many things to love about this pie. The crunchy streusel topping, the warm, yummy raspberries, the gooey sour cream filling, and the sweetness of the shortbread crust. Now, this pie, you can eat it warm, you can eat it cold, you can eat it room temperature. It is delicious every time. And this recipe is one that I do have a printed recipe sheet available. If you haven't heard about these, check out my video up there or the link down below where you can find all the info. But of course, as always, the entire recipe is available in the video description below. So we're going to start with the shortbread crust. So in my bowl, I have a half of a cup of salted, softened butter. I'm going to add into that a quarter cup of powdered sugar. And then we're just going to mix that till it's nice and combined and fluffy. Right, then we're going to add into that 1 cup of all-purpose flour and 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking powder. Right, don't overmix it, don't overbeat it. You want to get it just until it looks like nice, small kind of pebbles. And then we're going to use our hands to bring the dough together. All right, so then just take your hands, your clean hands, and the warmth of your hands is going to help the shortbread crust come together in a ball. And then take our dough and we're going to divide it into 2. And then we're going to take our 5-inch little pie tins. There's a link down below if you need to get yourself some. And then we're just going to push it into the bottom and onto the sides of the pie dish. For our pie filling, we're going to start by beating 1 egg. We just want to beat it till it's a nice light yellow lemon color. All right, and into our egg, we're going to add a half of a cup plus 2 tablespoons of sour cream. Now, I always use a full fat sour cream, or you could use a plain Greek yogurt if that's what you have or you prefer. We're going to put in the zest of 1 lemon, and I've just used my little microplaner here, gotten that zest off. This is going to give it a nice, fresh flavor. It's not overly lemon at all, but just kind of helps freshen that raspberry taste. And then we've got 3/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla extract. We're going to go ahead and mix that together. And after that's all combined, we're going to take a half of a cup of granulated sugar, a pinch of salt, and then 2 tablespoons plus 2 teaspoons of all-purpose flour. Yeah, now I know in these small batch recipes you get some kind of weird measurements. This is one of them. 2 tablespoons, 2 teaspoons. And then go ahead and combine that. Now we are ready to add in our raspberries. Now I am using fresh raspberries. You could totally use frozen raspberries. I would just thaw and drain them first. And you could also use blackberries, marionberries, blueberries, even strawberries if you prefer. I'm using about 1.5 cups. You can use 1.5 cups up to 2 cups. So we're going to add those in, and then we're not going to use the hand mixer for this because we don't want to break down those berries. So we're just going to use a spatula. Just stir just till they're incorporated, and then we are ready to put it into our pie crust. And so we're putting it into an unbaked pie crust. So put half in to each one. Try to get as even amount of raspberries as you can, but you know, doesn't have to be perfect. All right, there we go. Now, we are going to bake these. I like to just kind of maybe try to redistribute the raspberries just a little bit so they're not all on one side of the pie. We're going to take, I like to take just a cookie sheet. It's like this. Put my pies on that. It makes it much easier to get these pies in and out of the oven. Now, one thing I have found with this particular recipe is that my edges of the shortbread crust tend to brown quicker before the pie is totally cooked through. So I'm going to show you a little trick. So for our little trick, we are going to cover the edges of this pie crust with some foil before we put it in the oven. Usually I will like start to bake a pie, and then if I see the crust burning, or not burning, but browning too quickly, I'll pull it out and put the foil on, but it's really hard to do on a hot pie. So I know in this pie that's going to happen, so I just do it in the beginning, because we're going to take this pie out not halfway through, but partway through the baking process and add the streusel topping. So when I do that, I will remove the foil, and that will allow that crust to brown up a bit. But we don't want to cover the surface of the pie where the filling is, just the edge of the crust. So I've just taken a piece of foil, kind of folded it in half, And I'm just going to wrap it around the edge so it's covering just that edge of the pie crust. And it's going to take probably 2 widths. So I'm going to fold it in half, and then I'm going to kind of fold it in half again, open it up, and cover the edges of the pie crust. Then we're going to put it in a 400-degree Fahrenheit oven for 20-25 minutes until that filling is, it may be slightly jiggly, but it's pretty well set. And we're going to pull it out and add that streusel topping, which we're going to make right now. All right, while that is baking, we're going to make our streusel topping. We're going to start with 2 tablespoons of chilled butter. Not room temperature, but not, too hard, because we're going to incorporate it with a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, and then a 1/4 cup of old-fashioned oatmeal. Now, instead of the oatmeal, if you prefer, you could use a 1/4 cup of chopped pecans, or some kind of nut would work and be yummy too. Then we're just going to use our fingers. You could use a fork if you prefer, but I find it much easier just to use our fingers and just kind of smush it all together. It's such a technical term, until you have just a nice crumbly mixture. I baked mine for 25 minutes till I could see that it was set on top. And then we're going to remove the foil. You can see that the crust has brown too, but this is going to, because we put this on here, it's not going to over brown. But just be careful as you're taking the foil off that the crust doesn't stick to it. All right, and then we're going to take that streusel topping we made, and you want the top of the pie to be set so that when we put the streusel topping on top, it doesn't sink into the pie. We want it to stay on top. So go ahead and just sprinkle that on, half on each pie. We're going to pop them back into the oven for 8 to 10 minutes, or just until that streusel topping is starting to turn nice and golden brown. Our pies are done, and look how perfectly golden brown they are. Now, we're going to want to let them cool. Although you can eat this pie warm, you can eat it cold, you can eat it room temperature, however you like. Now, if you do happen to have any leftovers with this pie, you're going to want to keep it refrigerated because of that sour cream in it. But I hope you enjoy this lovely, delicious, smooth, rich sour cream raspberry pie. Now, if you missed any of my other pies of the month, make sure you check them out down below. And if you've got a pie you'd like to see me make here on YouTube, leave me a comment too, and I'll see you in the next video.